Yes. Carrie, we've got the mic will be out here, I guess. Will be out.
Okay.
Using one hand. Carrie, I'm going to catch you after church
Okay.
because I have a photo for you
Okay.
long ago
Okay.
that might be just
Okay.
that I found upstairs when Sarah and I were declining.
Byron to the rescue. Whoa, thank you, Byron. Well, this is actually kind of an indication of what this service is going to be like. It's an experiment, and it's informal, and it's meant to evoke our times in the outdoors. So, welcome to First Congregational Church. We're so pleased that you're here. The First Church is a progressive, prophetic Christian community that gathers to listen, speak, and act in a spirit of compassion, justice, and stewardship. Wherever you are on your journey of faith or life, you are welcome here. As I already indicated, today we're embarking on a sabbatical journey, which is mirroring that of our pastor, Jane McBride, who's on a 3-month sabbatical. We are seeking renewal and refreshment this summer, trying different forms of worship, jogging ourselves loose from our traditional spots in the sanctuary, and from our traditional ways of worshiping together. Today, we are recalling the many deeply meaningful worship experiences that we have had in the outdoors, perhaps at a summer camp, or in a campground, or at a retreat center, or perhaps simply by ourselves. So let's take a minute to settle our bodies, take some deep breaths, and call up an outdoor setting from your past that spoke to your spirit. And as we do so, let us remember those peoples who came before us, the Dakota, the Anishinaabe, and the Ho-Chunk, who lived on and with the land that we now enjoy. Let us give thanks for their stewardship and beg forgiveness for our trespasses against these peoples. Now, I would invite Theodore and Anya and Arcadia to come on up to the campfire. Arcadia, you want to come? This will be just less than 5 minutes. Here we go. Come on through. And any adults who got here late, we have some empty seats here if you want to come closer to the campfire. We would love to have a circle. Okay, guys. This, as you know, is a make-believe campfire. And Anya, could you hold up the marshmallows, please, so everybody can see the important, hold them up high over your head, way high, so everybody can see. There's a cooked marshmallow and there's a raw marshmallow. So, an important part of every campfire. Thank you, Theodore. Okay, you can lower them now. I think we've seen them. Have you ever been around a campfire, you three? Nod, nod. Arcadia, have you ever been around a campfire? Cool, okay. It's often a time for people to sing together or tell stories and share good food. And we'll have the food afterwards, thanks to Kathy Hansen, the lady sitting there in the light green dress. She's gonna have cake. But for right now, we're gonna do some singing and listening. Guys, okay, let's put the marshmallows down, thank you. Okay. So, has anybody here, and I'll look at the adults too, ever gone camping in a tent? Yes. Tent, yes, not an RV. RV is a slippery slope towards decadence. Okay. Okay. How about canoeing? We've got a canoe paddle here. How many people have been in a canoe before? Oh, cool, cool. You have? I know you two have because you were with me when we did it, right? Cool. And for some people, maybe it's being out on a picnic in a park right here in the cities. How many people have ever been on a picnic in a park? Yeah, most people at some time or another, right? Yeah, okay. So my question for you guys is, when you were doing this, what did you hear or see or smell? What was it like? Nature is what we call those things that we hear or smell or see when we are outdoors. And we believe that God is behind nature. When we see a bug crawling in the dirt, that's God. Okay? When we feel the wind on our face from riding or paddling in a canoe, we're feeling God. And if we hear the rain on our tent roof, we are hearing God at night. That's all nature, and nature is part of God. Today we're going to hear from 3 of our adults, and they're going to be Lou, sitting over here with the glasses, and it's going to be Carl, who's sitting back here, and I think Judith is here, and if not, Judith is back there. Oh, I'm sorry, there's Judith. I'm sorry, Judith. Okay, they're going to tell us some stories about times when they were out in nature and experienced God or felt some kind of Holy Spirit. And I want you to listen to the stories. That's you 3, okay? And try to imagine what you would be feeling or thinking if you were in their place. Judith, for example, is going to talk about canoeing. So you could think about, well, when I was canoeing, how did I feel? What do I remember about that? Okay? You can either stay here, or you can go back there. Okay? Good going, guys. Thank you for sitting with me for a minute. Okay, so we're going to stand for Kumbaya. What more traditional camp song could we do than that? And the words will be on the screen. If you can't see the words, it's simple enough. You can just listen to what other people are saying.
Please join me in the gathering words. If you wish to know the divine, feel the wind on your face and the warm sun on your hand. The Buddha. Our scripture today is Kings 19:11 through 13. They said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Now there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire a sound of sheer silence. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Then there came a voice to him that said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" The word of God for the people of God. May God bless the hearer of the word with generous insight and understanding.
Good morning. When your child is placed in your arms at birth, parents whisper heartfelt promises to love and protect them. At the same time, you also pledge to teach them things that are important to you. Carrie and I wanted to teach our kids to be kind, to be curious, to be spiritual, to be good humans, and to honor Mother Nature. As Jack and Emily grew up, we spent a lot of time outside, walking around the lakes, turning rocks over to look at bugs, paddling, camping in the state parks, and giving them the opportunity to join other campers in the Boundary Waters. Last summer, Jack and I went on a trip to the Boundary Waters. The first day, frankly, was miserable. It was cold, it was rainy, it was windy. Paddling into a stiff headwind, our progress was slow. Around noon, we got lost looking for a break in the trees that marked the start of a portage. There's a skill required in translating the details of a flat map into a wall of green 100 yards ahead of you. We were crabbing at each other, a 17-year-old boy and Dad. Which way should we go? It wasn't a good way to start the trip. We were crabbing at each other, and all of a sudden he abruptly said, "Dad, look." And he turned up, he pointed to an eagle soaring above us. The conversation stopped. We just sat in the canoe and floated in the wind and watched that eagle soar. It was magnificent. Later afternoon, we found that pesky portage and carried our gear to another lake. By mid-afternoon, Jack's navigation skills had returned. He was pointing out breaks in the trees. He was watching the ridges, say that this is how it matches the map. He was watching the banks as it in and out of the lakes. He was connecting with Mother Nature. But the rain came again. It came hard, pelting our hands as we gripped the paddles, finding ways to drip in the little cricks and crannies of our rain shells. We were miserable. We were just miserable. The next portage, we stopped, wet, cold, and tired, questioning what the next 3 days would be like. Dad, this isn't much fun. It's like, okay, great. I'm taking my kid out in the wilderness to learn something, and he's not happy. We sat against the trees and ate a cold lunch. We pushed through another series of portages and lakes, suffering the miserable conditions. Yet over the next few hours, Mother Nature pulled our attention away from a poor me point of view to the beauty of the wild places. Tall trees, trees with branches that quirked out in odd ways. We saw fish jumping. We saw more eagles. We saw gigantic granite boulders that designated campsites and just these massive rocks. And his head was on a swivel going, look at that, look at that, look at that. It was great to see. Mother Nature is beautiful. The mood shifted from cold, damp misery to one of wonder and discovery. Nearing another portage, he pointed out a jumble of submerged trees and rocks under the water as we neared the portage. He's like, Dad, wow, look at that. Look how deep that goes. We ate dinner, watched the clouds move past us from our campsite. Jack said, we don't pay attention to the clouds at home, do we? The clouds kept our attention for some time before we called it a day and crawled into our sleeping bags. I fell asleep quickly. Hours later, don't know what time it was in the Boundary Waters, Jack said, Dad, come look, come look. He had stepped out of the tent in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and was greeted by a dark sky filled with brilliant stars. The clouds were gone. The lights of the city didn't fade out the stars. It was incredible. If you've been to the Boundary Waters or even up north and seen what the stars are like outside of the city, they were right here, millions of stars just blinking right above us. It was a moonless night, so we just sat and watched, and it was so beautiful, we decided that we didn't want to go back to bed yet. We pulled our sleeping bags out, we laid them on this big rock face, we put our hands behind our heads, and we watched the stars. We pointed out the constellations we knew. We bantered and debated about the other ones. Oh, Dad, that star goes here, and that one goes here. That's not that one, that's this one. And then, Dad, look. And he pointed up. We saw a shooting star. And then another. And a third. It was incredible. I've been to the Boundary Waters so many times. Maybe I've seen one before. But not to hold our attention just streaking across the sky from from right to left. We stayed a bit longer pondering the beauty of Mother Nature. It was a wonderful night. 3 days later, as we were packing our car for the ride home, we talked about what we had seen. The eagles, the trees, the boulders, the mist on the surface of a mirror flat lake. He stopped me. "Dad, that was incredible. Can we go again?" Carrie and I kept our promise. The beauty of wild places inspires our kids. Thank you.
That pesky microphone. I'll just stand here and talk, I guess. I'm not going paperless, I just forgot to print it. I'll say I'm going paperless. Okay, I'm Carl Dyer, and I've been going to UCC services since before I was born. So I guess you could call my faith very pragmatic. I know that we don't do an altar call or laying on of hands here. And if anyone ever started speaking in tongues or having visions or hearing voices, we would be less likely to be overcome with penitence and more likely to get them a prescription for haloperidol. That being said, I'd like to share with you a time in which I heard voices, and I believe that it saved, or at least altered, my life. As many of you know, I've been nearing the end of a project. For the past 11 years, I have been attempting to reach the highest geographic point of every state. My tally now stands at 46 summits out of the 50 states, with plans in the works to get a few more, but no pressure to get all 50. Along the way, I've been turned back at 8 summits. It's my list. Some of these are exciting stories in their own right, like the 2015 attempt on Bora Peak in Idaho that ended due to a late July blizzard, or my 2018 attempt on Mount Hood, Oregon, where the county sheriff closed the mountain for a helicopter rescue of someone attempting suicide on the summit. Moral of that story is never climb a mountain on Friday the 13th. However, most of my failed climbs were due to poor planning and erroneous decision-making on my part, and so it was with Gannett Peak, Wyoming. The first week of July 2022, I set out on the Glacier Trail from Du Bois, Wyoming towards Gannett Peak, nearly 30 miles away. It's the most remote of the state high points. Almost immediately, I began to experience alarming symptoms: fatigue, gastrointestinal upset, nausea, and insomnia, to the point where I was unable to sleep or eat anything but a few gummy bears and a small amount of water for 2 days. The most concerning symptom was the shortness of breath, and the phlegmy cough that signaled fluid collecting in my lungs. In the back of my mind, I knew that it was the altitude affecting me. Look up high-altitude pulmonary edema if you want the gory details. But I soldiered on to the glacial tarn, a pond of melted glacier, just below the 2,000-foot technical climb to the summit. And the view from the tarn is pictured here. This is a picture I took. In this indescribably beautiful place, I threw down my 45-pound pack, and then I threw my body down beside it. I had to decide whether to set up my tent and attempt the climb the next morning, or to scrap the attempt and head down. I could see the summit from my vantage point. It was right there. I also knew that that stretch of calm, clear weather would not last and could not be expected for a future expedition. It was then that I heard the voice. It was a female voice, but somehow I knew that the person speaking to me was male. I know that doesn't make sense, but neither does the fact that the voice seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once. course, that's explained by the fact that the voice was in my head. The message was very simple. Don't die on this mountain. Go back down, come back another time. Don't die on this mountain. And even though the summit was right there, I listened to the voice and decided to go back down. I know it's no burning bush, and I certainly wasn't going to take off my boots, but I've never had an experience like that. And between you and me, I hope to never have one like it again. I took some pictures, I took a video of myself explaining the decision, and then I put my pack on and I headed back down the trail from whence I came. I slept quite well that night and ate well the next day and met dozens of other hikers on the trail, and despite the good conditions, only one of them made it to the summit. Every time I think, I could have climbed that mountain, I watch the video that I made. I see the trickle of blood from my right nostril, and I hear the moist kennel cough every few seconds, and I know in my heart and my head that I made the right decision. I'm going back to Gannett in 7 weeks, and I'm using a regimen of physical and mental preparation combined with several extra days at altitude to acclimatize and avoid hearing any voices this time. Not that getting divine input is a bad thing, but everyone on every temporal plane would probably be more comfortable if I didn't need the advice this time.
I used to take solo canoe trips up first in the Boundary Waters and then up to Wabakimi Provincial Park in Canada. Now I'm back in the Boundary Waters, I hope. Wabakimi is really remote. There's no car access, no road access. The best way to get in is by bush plane, which is to say de Havilland beaver that was probably made during the Second World War, with a canoe tied on the pontoon. And I had the privilege of working with an outfitter. I had all my own gear, but he would arrange the flight, and he would work with me on developing a route and getting the right maps. And what I wanted to do was continue a trip that I'd done the year before. And the year before, I'd stopped at Brennan Lake, kind of a big sprawling lake. And I really wanted to get over to Granite Lake, which is supposed to be a really beautiful lake. And the problem was how to get there. Because as he pointed out to me, the river that connected the two lakes, there was a falls as it came out of Brennan Lake. There was Brennan Falls, which he said was not runnable, and if there was a portage trail around it, he didn't know. And then on the other end, they go down to a little lake, and then at the other end of the lake, there was Granite Falls, which was the sort of falls that went through a defile, went just about horizontally, and the current was so strong above the falls that trying to get to any of the takeouts for the portage would have been extremely difficult. The water that year was extremely high, and it would have been simply impossible. As he said, if I try to do it, I'll die. So, okay, that was not on the agenda. But he said there was a sneak route that went around this that I could use. And he kind of explained it, and I kind of knew where it was. But you know, when water is high, things look different. They look very different. And I got to the place where I was supposed to find the sneak route. And the only thing I found that quite was where he said it was a river, fairly narrow river, but a river that was very fast with 2-foot standing waves. And I said, I'm not going down that. But I poked around and I found another river, which I thought was really a stream because it was very flat and not very deep. And it went, I thought, about the right direction, but the problem was that there was a ledge almost all the way across it. Ledges are very dangerous. They're like the low-head dams on Minnesota rivers. But right near the shore where I was, there was a chute. There was a break in the ledge. And being a cautious person, I parked my canoe and I scouted from above, and there were no rocks below at the end of the chute. It looked like a nice, clean, just sort of slide down. And now I knew this was kind of risky. And usually when I'm off, by myself, a long way from anywhere, I try to avoid doing risky things. But I did it anyway. I battened everything down in the canoe, took off my hat because I didn't want, I had a hat I didn't want anything around my neck. I snapped on a day pack that had emergency stuff in it just in case, and then I lined myself up and I paddled toward the chute. I had the canoe under perfect control. And then all of a sudden, I was so far deep down in the water, I had never been so deep underwater in my life. And I looked way up, and there was the hull of my canoe, way up there. And the thing was, it was beautiful. The water was blue-green and bubbly, and there was sun shining through it, and it was just awesomely beautiful. And I was just amazed by it. And then it occurred to me that I wasn't going up very fast, and that maybe I needed to kind of work on it. But as I started going, like this, I was never afraid. I never panicked, And I came up and I popped up, and right beside my canoe, which was sitting there, which suggests that there was water circling, and got the canoe. I kind of popped it out of the hole and into an eddy around behind some rocks where I was planning to kind of get things back together, but they actually didn't get back together. And there were a whole series of other adventures going down this river, all of them cold, wet, and rocky. Eventually, of course, I had at that point not the slightest idea where I was. And toward the end of this river, there was another ledge, there was another little chute. It was much smaller, zoomed into a peaceful little lake, and there was an island on the left, and I went along the island. And then off to the right, I saw a river coming in, and looking up the river, there was Brennan Falls. And I was in the little lake between Brennan Falls and Granite Falls. Not quite where I wanted to be. I paddled around the island. There was a nice campsite. I got on some dry clothes. I ate some warm food. I got something warm to drink because I was really cold, and I was unnerved. I really was feeling shaky. But the only time that I didn't feel that way was when I thought about being deep down in the water. When I thought about that, I felt a sense of peace. And I kept thinking about that experience under the water, and it seemed to me it wasn't just the water and me, that there was something else. And I thought about it, and then I realized with absolute certainty that God had been with me. And I think that's why all I saw down there was the beauty. I never panicked. I never was afraid. If I'd panicked and going like that, I wouldn't be here today. And it was the most intense experience of the presence of God that I think I've ever had. And I ended up losing my whitewater paddle in all of that, but I did have a bent shaft, which got me through the trip.
All right, today we're going to do the prayers of people, and we'll pass around the mic in just a moment after sharing a couple of prayers that people wrote down. We'll pass around the mic, so raise your hand if you'd like to share a prayer and end with God in your healing, or mercy, or love, or joy, and then we will all respond with, hear our prayer. So first, we're going to offer prayers for our friend David at the Rehab Center in Santa Clara, California. God, in your love and healing, hear our prayer. We'd also like to offer prayers for Brian Ingram, who has returned to Alaska to lay his father, Bill Punches, to rest. God, in your love, hear our prayer. I'd also like to offer prayers of strength and healing for my uncle as he has a long road to recovery from a bone marrow transplant a couple weeks ago as part of his treatment for leukemia. So I'd like to offer prayers of strength and healing for him, as well as prayers of gratitude for his donor from Poland. God, in your strength, healing, and gratitude, hear our prayer. All right. I'd like to pass the mic around the fire if anyone has prayers to share.
Prayers for our own Sarah Tittle, who had to say goodbye to her beloved dog Tupelo on Friday. God, in your grief and love.
Prayers of healing for my husband's best friend, Kenny, who's been sick for over a month, and it's been hard to figure out why he's so very tired. So hope for complete recovery for Kenny. God, in your healing.
A prayer of thanksgiving and gratitude for our program year of choir. The gift of music in my life is, I can't imagine my life without it, and I can't imagine my life without choir and all of the people in it. And Byron, our fearless leader. And it's live. We never quite know how it's going to be every time. And one day someone said to me, "Oh, you know, I saw you all on choir on YouTube or Zoom, and you know, I'm so comfortable at home. I don't know if I ever need to come to the sanctuary." And I said, "So come to worship at however you need to and want to. Understand that when we sing, we really like singing with people who are actually present, and so." If you can, it makes a difference. So just a prayer of gratitude for everyone in choir, and especially for Byron and everyone who provides special music. We take a break for the summer, but it doesn't mean that there's not music or special music, and I know Byron is recruiting people. So God, in your joy.
I'd like to ask for your prayers for my grandson, Daryl, whose birth father died last week, and sparks lots of different kinds of feelings, but certainly one of grief. God, in your love.
A prayer of remembrance for my late father-in-law, Connie's father, Harold, this Memorial Day week. We're taking a trip over to Frankenmuth, Michigan to see a display focused on Harold, who was in the 101st Airborne at Bastogne in World War II. And the Small Town Museum has created an exhibit honoring him.
God, in your love, hear our prayer.
I went to a gala last evening for the Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge. I saw so many people. I saw so many beautiful lives, but I also saw in their face their history and what they've been through. So just a prayer of gratitude for recovery programs and just prayers for their journey. My neighbor who had a stroke this past January, he and his family have moved out of my absolute across the alley vicinity, but they moved to one of the new apartment complexes I've been complaining about in Northeast. So I'm glad they didn't move away. So just prayers of gratitude that they're still around nearby and for their family. I have two prayers today. One is for a friend of mine, Isabel, who is going through stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She's doing amazing, but she had some really tricky surgery, so prayers for her. And then just a prayer of gratitude for my parents for instilling a joy.
Our friend Gladys, who recently moved to Buffalo, New York, within the first week of arriving, sprained her ankle. And one of her main hopes when going there was to find some work. And it would have involved probably being a cleaner. And so, of course, this has delayed her search for work. So, God, in your healing.
Prayers of joy for my little sister who just graduated college and is looking forward to teaching English in France this next year. I'm unbelievably proud of her.
Anyone else?
Prayers of healing, I guess, and love for my friend Ren, who's my pickleball partner, and very vibrant health until she was diagnosed with lung disease about 6 weeks ago and is now headed for a transplant list. So it's really shocking to all of us. Her kids don't even know yet, and just prayers to hold them all up during this time. Thank you.
We have one prayer from online. Sally would like to offer prayers for the city and people of Houston. The city suffered much damage from recent storms, and 5 lives were lost, and much misery for many. And she says that she and Tim are safe and grateful that their power has been restored. So prayers for the people of Houston. God, in your mercy, hear our prayer.
Prayers for the Timberwolves as they fight for Game 7. We need this so bad.
Prayers of all kinds for Carl Dyer, who will be making a move this summer. And boy, we're sure going to miss him in the choir. And we haven't had any big celebration, and I know he will come back, but Carl, you're well missed already. And Teresa.
Anyone else like to share? All right, we'd also like to offer prayers for the people of Ukraine and the people of Russia, as well as the people of Israel and the people of Gaza. God, in your justice and mercy, hear our prayer. We'd also like to offer prayers of joy for all of our graduates this season. God, in your love and joy, hear our prayer. Now I invite everyone to join in the Lord's Prayer. If we don't have any last-minute prayers, to squeeze in. All right. Our God, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Now I invite us into a time of offering, of generosity. In the middle of such a space of generosity that we've been occupying for the last little bit here, such gratitude for the generosity of spirit, of our storytellers, of our organizer of this amazing service, and for all of you to be here, to be in community together. Our offerings this week are for both First Church and its operations and ministry, as well as Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, our ministry partner that does work throughout the state of Minnesota. And I just invite you, whether or not you are giving financially, to spend a moment with the offering plate as it passes you here, if you're here with us in the space. And just an invitation, if you are joining us online at any point, to go to our website, firstchurchmn.org, and hit the Give button to support the ministries that we hold dear as a community. Now please join me in the prayer of dedication. In thanks for all the gifts you give us so freely, Holy One, we dedicate these gifts and ourselves to you. Amen. You may be seated. So just a couple of quick announcements. First of all, thank you to Cynthia and the other volunteers who have been running Open Doors Minneapolis and First Church's participation in that event this weekend. 50 folks came through yesterday, and more today. So yes, thank you. And a couple of June events to make note of. We have a new art exhibition in the Gathering Hall right now by artist, I had it written down, Cindy Gipple, who is a book and fiber-based artist, does amazing work, and there will be an artist reception on June 2nd after worship service. And then we have our Wednesday night community fun times schedule set for the month of June, and it's going to be lots of really fun stuff. So the events themselves are listed in the bulletin. Just keep in mind that this is a 6 to 8 p.m. event, and the vision is that you bring some dinner for yourself, and we eat it all together as community from 6 to 6:30 or so, and then the scheduled activity happens. And it's going to be varied. Some of them, like the first 2 weeks in June, are going to be here at the church, and then some of them are going to be in other places in the world, like the second 2 weeks in June. So we hope that you will participate in as many of these as your schedule allows over what is a busy time in the summer in Minnesota. But more importantly, I'd like to now invite us into a time of blessing of graduates. Today we are celebrating graduates of all things. We have graduates from a number of different institutions and points in life, and we give thanks for all of these. With a particular emphasis on those high school graduates in our community, in recognition that this is a big transition time. And I love the fact that we are around a campfire for this, because high school graduation is a little bit of a rite of passage. And this community celebrates you all and would love to just give some space for you in this time. So I would like to invite Soren and Tyler and Shannon up, just to emphasize that what we're really hoping for in this time is to know you more deeply and to celebrate you. So come on up. Thank you. So that everyone can see you, why don't you come over here? I'll move this thing. Yeah, great. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, would you mind, Shannon, starting us off and just saying maybe just one thing that you're particularly proud of from your high school time, and then a little bit about what is next for you?
I guess I'm proud of creating my own PSCO schedule and keeping to it. And I'm excited to go to Howard University in the fall, which was started by the First UCC Church in DC.
I am probably most proud of getting into my orchestra program's top orchestra, which I worked towards for 8 years. And I will be attending Cornell University in the fall.
I'm proud that I was able to to do so many things in high school between work and school and sports. And next year I will be attending Macalester College here in St. Paul.
And we are so proud of all three of you. And now let us, as a community, offer our blessings. Please extend a hand towards Soren and Tyler and Shannon. And please just call out, what are your hopes, your blessings for these people? Fun.
Joy. Curiosity. Hard work. Joy. Questioning. Friendship. Connections.
Success. Self-care.
Remember your family. Get off the screens.
That's one word. Learning.
Find the you that's uniquely you.
Exploration.
Imperfection.
Find your people.
Community.
Thank you all. And now, hear this blessing from St. Francis. May God bless you with a restless discomfort about easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may seek truth boldly and love deep within your heart. May God bless you with holy anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may tirelessly work for justice, freedom, and peace among all people. May God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can really make a difference in this world, so that you are able, with God's grace, to do what others claim cannot be done. Amen. And one more thing, we have a gift for each of you and each of the graduates from our congregation through Kathy. Where did Kathy go? There you are. We have plants. They're over here to the left of the screen. Please look them over. And this goes for you, Byron, as well. Yeah, pick one out that speaks to you, and let this be a sign of this community's love and care for you. Kathy reassures us, these are plants that are very forgiving, if you happen to forget to water them every now and then. But please go forth with your plants, just remembering that this community is here for you always, and is proud of you always. And now let us continue in worship.
We can't have a camp service without a camp song. So Peace Like a River, it's got hand motions. It only has 2 verses. And so let's stand up and we'll go through this twice. So if you miss it the first time, you're going to have another time to do it.
Like a river,
such good cameras. Okay. May you go with a renewed sense of nature's power to refresh us, to center us, to challenge us. May we be open to what is right in front of us. Go in peace and in possibility. Amen.